forest lived a little girl with her mum and dad. Each time the little girl went into the forest, she wore a red hood. Everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mum had baked a cake. The cake was a present for Red Riding Hood's grandmother. Grandmother lived on the other side of the forest. Red Riding Hood's mum asked her to take the cake to Grandma. Mum told Red Riding Hood to keep on the pathway and not stop anywhere. She told her not to talk to strangers. Mum and Red Riding Hood waved goodbye to each other. Little Red Riding Hood went into the forest. She had a basket on her arm with the cake inside. A big bad wolf was watching her. He was very hungry. Little Red Riding Hood did not see him. He came beside Red Riding Hood. The wolf tried to sound friendly. He asked Red Riding Hood where she was going. She told him she was going to see her grandmother on the other side of the forest. The big bad wolf told Red Riding Hood that she should pick some flowers for Grandma. As Red Riding Hood was picking the flowers, the wolf ran off. He wanted to get to Grandmother's house before Red Riding Hood. The big bad wolf arrived at Grandmother's house. He knocked on the door. Grandmother asked who it was. The wolf changed his voice and said it was Red Riding Hood. Grandmother said the door was open. The big bad wolf let himself in. Grandmother saw him and began to scream. Before she could do anything, the big bad wolf swallowed Grandmother up. The big bad wolf was not satisfied. He wanted to eat Red Riding Hood as well. The big bad wolf dressed himself in Grandmother's clothes. He climbed into her bed. He waited for Red Riding Hood to arrive. Red Riding Hood came to Grandmother's house. She knocked on the door and asked if she could come in. The big bad wolf changed his voice. He sounded like her grandmother. He told her to come in. Red Riding Hood said what a deep voice her grandmother had. The wolf said it was better to greet her with. Red Riding Hood moved closer to her grandmother. She said what big eyes she had. The wolf said they were better to see her with. Red Riding Hood said what big ears grandmother had. The wolf said they were better to hear her with. The wolf told her to move closer. Red Riding Hood said, what big teeth she had. The wolf told her they were better to eat her with. The wolf jumped out of the bed. Red Riding Hood screamed. Red Riding Hood ran from the house. The big bad wolf chased her. She saw a woodcutter. Red Riding Hood told him that the wolf had eaten her grandmother. The brave woodcutter picked the big bad wolf up. He shook him and the grandmother came out. She was shaken but safe and okay. The woodcutter, grandmother and Red Riding Hood all watched the wolf run away. They were happy now. The big bad wolf had gone. Red Riding Hood and her grandmother thanked the woodcutter. Little Red Riding Hood told her grandmother and the woodcutter that she had learnt a lesson. She would always follow her mother's instructions and never talk to strangers again. Once upon a time, Mummy Pig and her 3 little pigs lived in a house in the woods. Mummy Pig did not have enough money to look after the 3 little pigs. Mummy Pig told the 3 little pigs that they would have to leave her and make their own fortune. The next day, the 3 little pigs left and went into the woods. They did not see a big bad wolf watching them from behind a tree. The wolf was hungry and wanted to eat the 3 little pigs. The 3 little pigs met a man with some straw. The first little pig asked the man if he could have some straw to build his house with. The man said he could and gave him some straw. The first little pig made a house from the straw. He was very happy with his straw house. The other 2 little pigs waved goodbye and carried on through the woods. The first little pig went into his straw house. A little ahead, the 2 little pigs met a man carrying sticks. The second little pig asked the man if he could have some sticks to build his house with. The man said he could and gave him some sticks. The second little pig made a house from the sticks. He was very happy with his house made from sticks. The third little pig waved goodbye and carried on through the woods. The second little pig went into his house made from sticks. The third little pig met a man pushing a wheelbarrow filled with bricks. He asked the man if he could have some bricks to build his house with. The man said he could and gave him some bricks. The third little pig worked very hard and made his house from bricks. He was very happy with his house made from bricks. He wanted his house to be stronger than the other 2. The big bad wolf went to the first little pig's house. He looked in the window and saw the first little pig. The wolf knocked on the door. The wolf asked if he could come in, but the first little pig would not let the wolf come inside. The big bad wolf huffed and puffed. He blew the house made from straw away. The first little pig ran to the second little pig's house. The big bad wolf went to the second little pig's stick house. He looked inside and saw the two little pigs. He knocked on the door and asked if he could come in. The two little pigs would not let him come inside. The big bad wolf huffed and puffed. He blew the house made from sticks away. The two little pigs ran to the third little pig's house. The big bad wolf went to the third little pig's house. He looked in the window and knocked on the door. The three little pigs were all in the house together. The big bad wolf asked if he could come in, but the three little pigs would not let him come inside. The big bad wolf huffed and puffed, but he could not blow the house made from bricks away. The brick house was too strong for the wolf. The big bad wolf carried a ladder to the house. He was going to climb down the chimney and into the house that way. The big bad wolf climbed up the ladder and onto the roof. He was very happy that he would eat the three pigs today. The big bad wolf jumped down the chimney. He landed in a pot of boiling water. The three little pigs had put the pot on the fire underneath the chimney. The big bad wolf was burnt badly. He jumped out of the pot and ran out of the house. The three little pigs were very happy. They did not have to fear the wolf anymore. They lived happily ever after. Once upon a time, on a farm next to a pond, Mother Duck was sitting on her nest on her eggs. It was a summer's day. Slowly, one by one, her eggs all cracked open. The ducklings all said, "Quack, quack," but one egg did not hatch. Grandfather Duck heard all the quacking and went to see Mother Duck. Mother Duck told him about the egg that had not hatched. Grandfather Duck thought the egg looked like a turkey's egg because it was so big. After a few days of waiting, the big egg hatched. Mother Duck could see that the duckling was not the same as the others. It was bigger, white, and ugly. Mother Duck was sure that the duckling would change and become like the others. Mother Duck and the ducklings went swimming in the pond. The ugly duckling could swim much better than the others could. Mother Duck was very happy about this. After their swim, Mother Duck took the ducklings to the farmyard to play. The farm animals saw the ugly duckling and were very mean to him. They told him he looked ugly and that he did not look like the other ducklings. The ugly duckling became very sad. Mother Duck was not happy with the other animals and told them to leave the ugly duckling alone. Mother Duck told them how well the ugly duckling swam and how she thought he would look like the other ducklings in a few days. The days went by and nobody listened to Mother Duck. The farm animals still made fun of the ugly duckling. The other ducklings were also mean to him and would not play with him. The ugly duckling felt very sad. He did not want to be at the farm anymore. One night he ran away. He went a long, long way and fell asleep in a muddy marsh. The next morning, the ugly duckling woke to see some of the wild ducks looking at him. He asked them if he could stay with them. They told him that he was ugly, so he could not stay with them and had to go. The ugly duckling was very sad. Nobody was ready to be his friend because he was so ugly. It started to rain, so the ugly duckling found a place to stay dry. He took shelter under the porch of an old house. The next day, the house door opened, and a big dog came outside. The dog barked at the ugly duckling, and the duckling had to run away very quickly. The days went by and winter came. The ugly duckling was very cold. He lived alone near a pond and made his home in the long grass. It was a long winter. Finally, spring came with sunny days. One day on the pond, the ugly duckling saw 3 beautiful white swans swimming. The ugly duckling knew that they would not want him as a friend because he was too ugly. The 3 swans saw the ugly duckling and swam over to him. They said, "Hello, new swan." The ugly duckling asked them why they called him a swan when he was a duck. The swans told him that he was not a duck and to look at his reflection in the water. The ugly duckling was very happy with his reflection in the water. He was not an ugly duckling anymore. He was a handsome white swan. The 3 swans were happy to be his friends, and they all swam in the pond. The 4 swans flew up in the sky. The ugly duckling was a very handsome white swan. He was very happy. The children on the ground clapped as the swans flew above them.
Beauty and the Beast. Once there lived a merchant with 3 daughters. The 2 elder daughters were selfish and wicked. The youngest one was so sweet that he named her Beauty. Once the merchant had to go away for work.
"What gifts do you want?"
he asked. The eldest demanded a pearl necklace. The second wanted diamonds. Beauty asked for a red rose. While returning, the merchant had gifts for his 2 elder daughters, but he couldn't find the perfect rose for Beauty. Suddenly, he stumbled upon an enchanting castle and went inside. There was no one in the castle. Strangely, a royal feast was laid out at the dining table. He was very hungry, so so he ate the food. He went upstairs and went to bed. Next morning, the merchant saw some beautiful red roses in the garden of the castle.
Wow! I must take one of these roses for Beauty,
he said. A scary beast appeared and demanded to know why he was stealing his rose. The merchant replied that it was for his daughter, Beauty.
Then you must send Beauty to live with me,
the beast replied. On reaching home, the merchant's voice trembled as he told Beauty everything. I must go, Father, Beauty said. Bravely, Beauty went to the castle. The beast always treated her with kindness and respect. Soon, she became fond of him. After some days, Beauty started missing her father badly. Beast let her go home. Beauty promised to return soon. Her father was delighted to see her. Her sisters claimed to be happy, but they were furious to see her return. Beauty loved her family's company. One night, she dreamed of the beast lying on the floor in poor health. She went to the castle immediately. She found the beast in the exact same condition.
Why didn't you come back soon?
Gasped the beast. She sobbed. He asked her to marry him. She agreed immediately. Instantly, the beast turned into a handsome prince.
Oh, Beauty, thank you. A wicked magician turned me into a beast. The spell would only end if a beautiful girl were to promise to marry me,
he said. Soon they were married. The merchant was very happy with the marriage. They lived happily ever after. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful girl named Cinderella. She lived with her mean stepmother and her two cruel stepsisters. One day, the stepsisters received an invitation for a ball at the royal palace. What a shame maids aren't invited too, jeered the stepsisters. As soon as her stepsisters left, Cinderella cried her heart out. She wanted to go to the ball. Suddenly, she heard a voice from the back. I'm your fairy godmother. I will fulfill your wish. The fairy godmother magically transformed Cinderella and her friends. She told Cinderella to return before midnight. As soon as the handsome prince saw Cinderella, he was instantly enchanted. They both danced together. The clock struck 12, and Cinderella immediately ran out of the palace. She panicked and lost a glass slipper in the palace. The puzzled prince chased after her, but only found the slipper. The love-struck prince went from house to house, making every girl try on the slipper. Soon, he reached the stepsister's house. They snatched the slipper from him and tried it on their feet in vain. Then, the prince asked Cinderella to try on the slipper. Her dainty foot was a perfect fit. The prince gasped in delight. The prince took Cinderella back to his palace. They got married and lived happily ever after. Once upon a time, there lived a family of 3 bears in the forest. One morning, their porridge was too hot to eat, so they went for a walk instead. While they were out, a naughty little girl named Goldilocks came wandering through the woods. She entered their house. She saw a table with 3 bowls of porridge. There was 1 large bowl, 1 middle-sized bowl, and 1 small bowl. Goldilocks sat on the biggest chair and tried the porridge from the biggest bowl. But the cushion on the chair was very hard and the porridge too hot. Then she settled in the smaller chair. She tried some porridge from the smaller bowl, but the chair was too soft and the porridge too cold. Finally, she jumped into the tiny chair and tasted some porridge from the small bowl. It was delicious, but her weight broke the chair into pieces. Goldilocks went upstairs. There was 1 bedroom with 3 beds. She climbed into the big bed, but it was too hard. The middle bed was far too soft. Then Goldilocks climbed into the smallest bed. It was perfect. Soon Goldilocks fell asleep. The 3 bears came back home. When they looked at their bowls, they were shocked. Someone had eaten Baby Bear's porridge. They even realized that somebody had been sitting on their chairs. Baby Bear saw his broken chair and sobbed. They went upstairs to their bedroom. Baby Bear saw Goldilocks and screamed, "Somebody's been sleeping in my bed!" He screamed so loudly that Goldilocks woke up. She ran into the forest. The 3 bears never saw her again. Midas. Once there lived a kind and wealthy king named Midas. He was so obsessed with wealth that he would dream of it every night. One day, Midas saw an elderly man in the garden. He invited the man to his palace. At the palace, a young man wearing a leafy crown appeared. He was looking for the elderly man. The elderly man said to Midas,
"This is Dionysus. He is a god." Dionysus said to Midas, "You've been very kind to my friend. In return, I will grant you a wish." Midas wished, "Everything I touch must turn to gold." "So be it," said Dionysus, snapping his fingers. Instantly, Midas's wooden stick turned into a gold one. Midas touched his palace, and the walls turned to dazzling gold. He felt like the richest man in the world. It was dinner time, and Midas was hungry. But when he touched his food, it turned to gold. "Oh no!" His daughter heard his cries. She ran towards Midas and hugged him. Even she turned into a golden statue. He cried for help from Dionysus. Dionysus appeared. He said, "Bathing in the river will wash away your gift." Midas stepped into the river, and his stick became wooden again. He went back to his palace. Everything was back to normal. Midas was very happy. He promised to never be greedy again. Rapunzel. Once upon a time, a young couple lived near an enchanted garden. But no one ever set foot in the garden because it was owned by a witch. One day, the wife, who was expecting a baby, began to crave spring leaves from the witch's garden. Her husband bravely picked leaves of a plant named Rapunzel. The witch caught him. The husband said,
It's for my pregnant wife.
In return, the witch demanded to take the child. The couple was soon blessed with a little girl. The witch arrived at their door and took the baby away. She decided to name her Rapunzel. Years passed, and Rapunzel turned 13. The witch locked her in a tower with no door. The witch would climb the tower using Rapunzel's long hair. One day, a prince saw Rapunzel sitting at the window. He was instantly enchanted by her. Rapunzel let down her hair, and the prince climbed up. "You must go before the witch finds you," said Rapunzel. The prince promised to help her escape with a rope ladder. When the witch returned, she sensed that a man had been there. In anger, she chopped off Rapunzel's long golden hair and locked her in a cupboard. The prince arrived again and climbed up. But the witch was holding the long hair. She tried to push him away. The prince managed to dodge the witch. She lost her balance and fell on the ground with a thud.
The prince found Rapunzel in the cupboard. They climbed down the rope ladder and fled. Soon they got married and lived happily ever after. The Frog Prince. One day, a beautiful princess was playing catch with her golden ball near a pond. By mistake, she dropped the ball. It rolled down the bank and sank into the depths of the pond. "My golden ball is lost forever," said the princess.
"I can find it for you,"
croaked a frog. The princess hated frogs. She couldn't bear to look at him. But she said anyway, "I'll give you pearls and diamonds if you do."
"I don't want pearls and diamonds. I want to eat from your plate, drink from your cup, and sleep in your bed. Will you promise me that?"
"I promise," she said. The frog dived deep into the pond. He returned with the golden ball. The princess became very happy. She snatched it from the frog and ran away. That evening, the princess and her family were having dinner. There was a gentle knock at the door. A croaky voice called out,
"Remember your promise, dear princess."
Who is that?
The king asked the princess. "A frog who found my lost ball. I promised to share my plate with him,"
Do as you promised.
thundered the king. Unwillingly, the princess picked up the frog. The frog ate from her plate and drank from her cup. She took him to her room. The frog hopped onto her bed and slept. The princess was disgusted. The frog ate from her plate and slept in her bed for 3 days. On the 4th evening, she heard a knock on the door. Standing at the door was a handsome prince. "Who are you?" stammered the princess. "I am a prince. A wicked witch turned me into a frog. Princess, you have been very kind to me. You have freed me from the spell. Will you marry me?" The princess was enchanted with the handsome prince. She agreed immediately. They married and lived together happily ever after. The Giant Turnip. Once upon a time, there lived an old man with his wife. The old man planted some turnip seeds. He watered them and cared for them. The seeds grew into plants. There were lots of turnips. The old man took good care of them. Out of all those turnips, there was one huge turnip. He had never seen a giant turnip before. Finally, the turnip stopped growing. The old man decided to pull it out of the ground. He pulled and pulled and pulled, but the giant turnip wouldn't budge. The old man called his wife for help. The wife held the old man, and the old man held the turnip top. Together they pulled and pulled and pulled. They called their son for help. Together they pulled and pulled and pulled, but the giant turnip wouldn't budge. They called their dog for help. Together they pulled and pulled and pulled, but the giant turnip still wouldn't budge. At last, they all called the little mouse for help. He crawled his way under the turnip and started nipping the roots with his teeth. While the little mouse nipped the roots, they kept pulling, and suddenly, pop! Out of the ground came the giant turnip. Everyone was pleased. That evening, they all enjoyed a delicious turnip supper, even the little mouse. The Ugly Duck. One day, Mother Duck was sitting in her nest with her little ducklings. They were waiting for one big egg to hatch. Soon, the big egg hatched. The duckling was different. It was bigger and ugly. Mother Duck hoped that the duckling would change. Mother Duck and the ducklings went swimming in the pond. The ugly duckling could swim much better than the other ducklings. Mother Duck took the ducklings to the farm. The farm animals saw the ugly duckling. They were mean to him. He became very sad. This continued for many days. One night, the ugly duckling went far, far away and fell asleep in a muddy marsh. The next morning, the ugly duckling met some wild ducks. They told him that he was ugly and asked him to leave. The ugly duckling was very sad. Months passed by, but nobody was ready to be his friend. One day, the ugly duckling saw 3 beautiful white swans swimming in a pond. The 3 swans said, "Hello, new swan." The ugly duckling told them that he was a duck. The swans told him to look at his reflection in the water. The ugly duckling was amazed. He had grown into a handsome white swan. He was no longer ugly. The 4 swans flew up in the sky. The children on the ground clapped as the swans flew above them.